Welcome back to the Sideline Live podcast. You can follow us over on Twitter and Instagram at the Sideline Live. We'd love to hear from you. On episode 59, I am delighted to be joined by Monaghan Senior footballer Dessie Ward. On this episode, we discuss kicking practice, self-talk, college football, entrepreneurship, his online programs, and so much more. I thoroughly enjoyed chatting with Dessie, so I hope you get something from the episode. Hi Dessie, thanks a million for joining me on the podcast.
How are you, Orla? Thanks very much for having me on.
Before we get into everything, I have a lot of listeners from different sporting backgrounds. Would you be able to give a bit of a 30-second intro to listeners who might not know who you are?
Yeah, so I'm Dessie Ward. I'm part of the Monaghan GAA football team and I play for Ballybay Pierce Brothers here, my home club in County Monaghan. So I'm a very GAA-based person. I opened a gym in 2018 and a lot of what we do in our gym involves GAA players with obviously a lot of different sports as well, with the likes of soccer, rugby, different sports coming in and out, but our main base and our main client base would be GAA players. So It's just a good combination from what I have done previously to bringing into my life in the gym or my business as well. So.
Growing up, who got you involved in Gaelic football? What was the kind of influence there growing up?
Yeah, well, I suppose my grandfather was he was Dessie Ward as well, and he died the year I was born, so I was named after him, and he played for Monaghan Senior footballers as well. He won a junior All-Ireland title with Monaghan as well, and the Stoney All-Ireland title we have male football wise. But he was obviously a big part of it, just looking back through photos and old videos and stuff of him playing football with Monaghan. And then also my father and his brothers all played for Ballybay, and my dad and Peter that's an uncle of mine, won a senior championship with Ballybay as well. So it would obviously have been a fairly big influence. But I suppose in general, like, they wouldn't have pushed me to play football. It was an interest born of my own love for watching Gaelic football, watching the likes of Kerry playing back in the they wouldn't have pushed me to play. They would have been a great support to me, but like that, it would have all been born from just watching and hearing them talk about football and different things like that.
What kind of player were you growing up, maybe particularly at underage levels around the teenage years? Were you always kind of a standout star?
I don't know. I don't think so.
You weren't? No?
No, well, I probably would have worked hard. Like, I would have been lucky enough to have plenty of skill that I think I would have practiced a lot on. Like, you know, it's funny. I talk about this in the gym with a lot of teams I have in at the moment. You don't see a lot of children at the moment outside kicking ball around, kicking off the wall, kicking out in the garden, whatever it might be. Whenever I was younger, I would have been out in the garden 24/7. It was war to be brought in. There'd be a fight with mom to come in for dinner, like, you know. So that's just the way I was. I was lucky that I had a garden out the back. And a brother to play football with, to go out and kick about for the whole day. So I probably was skillful enough based on a lot of practice, but I wouldn't say I was a standout player, especially when it came to county minors and things like that. I remember coming home from even a couple of county minor league games and stuff, nearly almost crying because I wasn't involved or wasn't getting playing, and that sort of nearly pushed me to, you know, to work harder and try to get a place in those teams. So I do think a lot of it was born from hard work mainly, and probably a wee bit of luck as well.
Mm-hmm. I'd gone back over your takeover with the Backdoor GAA, and you mentioned that underage you would have trained 5 or 6 times a week. That's including your own sessions or team sessions. What kind of things were you practicing at that time? And you kind of said there, motivation wise, it would have been from those minor games where you came home and you were like, geez, I'm not getting a go here, but like the only answer is to work harder and just get my spot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, definitely. Well, I suppose the game's developing a lot now in recent times. I suppose a lot of it is, you know, athleticism, speed, that kind of thing is starting to take over a wee bit more now in Gaelic football. But whenever I was younger, it would have been just practice with left and right foot, left and right hand. Like, I suppose the basic skills, it's unreal how the basic skills are sort of neglected lately. And I definitely found that whenever I was younger, they were the things I was always working on. And I would comfortably say that I am comfortable off both hands and both feet at the moment as well. And that was definitely down to what I would have done whenever I was younger, out in the garden, out in the football field. Like, it was literally torture for my ones, having to collect me at the football field or drop me here, drop me there, just to try and get practicing. So I think that's sort of where I would have picked a lot of it up. And yeah, I think that's just where I worked hard mostly, was the basic skills of the game.
Do you think it's nearly too late? Do you think players, maybe when they get to their early 20s, mid 20s, that if they don't put in the work at underage, particularly on the, both sides, that it's a little bit too late for them to pick it up?
Yeah, to an extent. I suppose as you get older, you don't have the same time that you might have had when you were younger, and you also mightn't have the same like, I know just myself, body wise, like, I find that whenever I go and do a kicking session, my legs are heavy. I'm fairly tired after just an hour of maybe kicking about or that kind of thing. Whereas when we were younger, it was just a matter of go out and you could play for the whole evening. I suppose as you get older, different things come into play with the likes of work and stuff like that. So I do feel like it's harder. I don't think it's something that people should not do just because they haven't, if you were getting into Gaelic football, absolutely practice it as much as possible. You're bound to improve if you're practicing enough. But I just feel it is a wee bit harder as you get older to improve those skills.
It's even the confidence when you're older to be able to turn on to the other side and have that belief in, I'm not going to completely miss this kick, I'm going to actually execute it, not even put it over the bar, but just be able to execute it.
Absolutely. No, a lot of it is, as you say, it is confidence. And I actually have, there's a couple of young girls that come into us for GA training, and like that, like, they'd say to me, no, I can't use my left foot. But that is definitely a thing that's just in the back of their head. We've worked on it now over the last couple of weeks, and absolutely they can use their left foot just purely based on a wee bit of practice. Again, like as I said, you might go from not being able to use it at all to being able to use it in some capacity, and that's definitely good enough for the likes of club football, or even most inter-county teams. If you're able to just get yourself out of trouble using your weak side, then at the minute, that's definitely a massive part of it.
Do you take players on specifically for GAA training outside of the gym, kind of skills work and stuff?
Yeah. So it all depends. Like, if literally we're jack of all trades, probably masters of none, unfortunately. But no, that's sort of the way we are. Like, I would, if anybody wants help in any area of just any type of sport, even like I had different young fellas in for soccer training. Not that I would have ever been any good at soccer, but I know the basic skills of it and some basic things. And like that, like, I'd like to think that we are fairly approachable, and we would help in any aspect that we can. So yeah, like that, like, we take a lot of people for skill training. I suppose this time of the year it doesn't really help that there's light is always against us. Most people are either in school, college, or work, so it's very hard to get outside. But definitely in summertime, we would have a right few people coming out to us, and we'd be practicing skill. I'm lucky enough that our gym is based in Ballybay Pierce Brothers Football Club, and they give me full use of the whole ground. So
brilliant.
It's ideal for that as well.
What kind of skills are you kind of trying to help players develop? You mentioned the basics. Is there anything in particular that you kind of run throughout the pitch sessions? I know it would obviously vary depending on the type of player and their ability.
Exactly, yeah. I suppose my go-to is always, especially with Gaelic football, is trying to practice the weak side. I don't know, I'm probably like a broken record. All I want to do is get people better on their weak side. I suppose I just think it's a massive thing for helping people get out of trouble like that. Like say if you're trapped in a corner, if you're able to hand pass out with your left or right hand, or
Hmm.
vice versa, it's a massive part of the game. So when have most people, I would always, that would be my go-to to start off with. And then like that, if they have a specific area they want to work on themselves, then that would be what we'd work on. But yeah, like just it is a matter of mastering the basics. Like we go from everything to catching, kicking, even running. It's unreal these days how many um just even kids can't don't have the basics of running.
Yeah, yeah.
We did a testing session the other night. I hope the boys, if they see this, they'll be giving out. But we had a team. It's our own club actually. Was in testing with us, and the amount of lads that who are pretty fast but aren't running correctly, and their speed is just slightly off because of that. But we spent literally an hour last night practicing just running technique for, and like I was like a broken record. Definitely last night I was trying to get them to repeat the same thing over and over and over again. They probably don't understand why I want to keep them doing that, but
Mm.
whenever they get to my age, I suppose they'll really hopefully realize, or if they've stuck at it, that is the reason why.
Yeah, it's actually that's actually something I'm working on at the moment is my running technique, and it's just like it like you're kind of saying my coach is nearly like a broken record because it's just a habit. I just have to nearly rewire the way I think about the running, and my knee drive is a really big thing I'm working on, but it's just having the confidence as well to push the power through. Is it that is the habits, is that just a big part now of Gaelic football? Like
Absolutely.
I guess from 20 years ago maybe players weren't as maybe I don't know how to phrase this, but maybe habits weren't as big of a thing, whereas now habits seem to be the biggest and nearly most important thing as a Gaelic footballer.
Absolutely, it's a massive part of it. Like I would find now, like even my own running technique, probably a few years ago, probably wouldn't have been as good as it is now, or as good as it could be. It probably isn't even as good as it could be at the moment.
Hmm.
But it's like that. It's habit and repetition. So I would have said probably about 3, 4 years ago, every time I do any sort of run or on my own or in a warm up, that I can think about my running technique, that I will practice it and practice and practice it. Whenever you go into a game, obviously the last thing you're going to be thinking is, right, I need to be running, I need to get my knees up here. You're not going to think about those kind of things. But if you've practiced it enough in the past, that will come naturally to you as you're running or as you're getting into a high speed sprint. So, like that, like it is definitely habit. It comes down to just repetition, 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 practice, practice, practice. So, I definitely would have found over the last couple of years just trying to in certain aspects of training. So let's say you're doing your warm up. Let's think about getting my knee drive right, getting the punch and action into the floor, getting that correct, and then also whenever you're doing a run in training that mightn't involve a ball, that's another great chance for you to work on that technique.
Hmm. Is there any other reminders or triggers that you use across other areas of your game?
Yeah, I suppose it's a few things that I would have worked with a psychologist last year.
Okay.
Um, I probably would have been one for being hard on myself if I missed a chance or if I made a mistake or something like that. I would probably it would have been a thing that would have let it play in my mind. So it's actually something similar to what the All Blacks and Dan Carter, if you listen to his podcast there recently with the High Performance podcast, like he uses a trigger which was just slap himself on the leg. So I had something similar to that, where it was either fix me sock or just pick a piece of grass, throw it away, and say next play or next ball, and that would sort of just try to get your mind thinking about the next moment in the game. So I suppose that's definitely an area that I had to work on, was the mental aspect of it and trying to refocus on the main, what the job that's at hand, as opposed to the mistake or something that has just gone behind me.
At the intercounty level, is the game more physical or mental, do you think?
I suppose it's a bit of both. I suppose, like obviously physically, it's a wee bit more demanding than club football because it is a 70-minute match, and which normally runs into about 80 minutes. Um, it's definitely more physically demanding, and the speed of it is quite a bit higher. But I definitely would say there's a massive mental aspect to it as well. You have to think your way through every game. There's a lot of tactics. There's, I suppose, especially with us having Rory Began with us, there's kick out calls. There's a lot of things that you need to be able to process. And if you're not tuned in to your role, you're just not going to be good enough to the team. So obviously there is a huge mental aspect, and it probably does outweigh the physical, although you have to be in great physical shape to play Gaelic football at inter-county level at the moment as well.
How much responsibility is kind of given to players, I suppose, at the inter-county level? Like you even said there, like the different kicking calls you do, and even knowing your role on match day. I know obviously that would vary depending on the game and who you're marking, but coming back to you, how much is that is down to you knowing everything and being able to kind of approach the management and say, maybe ask them a question? Like I get the sense that a lot of the responsibility now is on the player, maybe as a couple of years ago, or even I think lockdown has accelerated that because you have to do running sessions by yourself.
Yeah, no, well, I definitely do think there's a massive onus on the individual. The like in fairness, our management team is absolutely top class. They will try to put everything on a plate for you to learn. But if you don't go and learn the things that they're trying to put in place for you, you're not going to excel, or you're not going to get your position on the team. So definitely I find that, like, it's unbelievable the amount of work that you have to put in away from the game. And I just think that, well, I know myself, if I didn't put in that work, I would fall behind. I wouldn't be at the same standard as the boys that are on the team. But I think that is a good thing that has come into the Monaghan setup over the last while, is those standards. Like, if you're not getting yourself to the standards, you might as well not go to training, because the majority, if not everyone, is putting in that work, to be where they're at. So definitely there's a huge onus on us as players. And like that, on the pitch, it doesn't matter what the managers have said to you before, or what they've given you previous. Like, if you're not able to make your own decisions on the pitch either, or as a team collectively, if we can't do that together, we're not going to perform to the best of our ability. So, like, every game is different. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if Rory was given 10 kick out calls before the game. Like, you mightn't use one of those kick outs during the game, depending on how the other team is set up. So it's all about adapting, and just like that, putting in the effort away from the pitch to make sure that you're ready to perform.
We've spoken a lot about kind of the hard work and the effort that goes into it. How do you keep it fun for yourself? Because at the level of commitment there is now, intercounty players wouldn't be there if they didn't enjoy it.
Yeah, well, I suppose that's probably it is a big question. Like, there is elements to it where I say to myself, where is the fun in this? But I suppose whenever you get, like, I suppose one thing I do is I look back on what I wanted when I was younger. So every day I woke up as a juvenile footballer, I'd look to the likes of Paul Finlay, Declan O'Sullivan, and these boys, and say they're the type of people I want to be. Breaking into that setup, breaking into Monaghan setup, I knew that this was a massive opportunity to be like Paul or be like Declan. And I was always thinking to myself, I want to get up to that standard. But when you lose, there's a big part of you says, why do I do this to myself? Why do I put in so much effort? But every time that settles down again, you go back to that old way of thinking and saying, do you know what? I want to get there again. I want to push myself to be as good as I can possibly be. And in that, there is a bit of fun in that you're challenging yourself. There's mind games that go on with yourself all the time, saying, are you good enough to do this? Can I do this? But all in all, like, a lot of it comes down to our teammates too. Like, every single time we win a big game, or even if we lose a game, we're all in it together, and every one of us join each other for maybe a couple of drinks after, or whatever it might be. to relax and come away from football as well. And I think that's definitely a fun part of it for me, that I have a lot of friends within both teams, Ballybay and Monaghan, and I can enjoy myself every time I meet those people. So that's definitely the fun aspect for it for me.
So when you're going through those tough, hard running sessions that I presume will happen during pre-season, are you reminding yourself of yourself as a juvenile, saying this is what you wanted, this is what you dreamt of, and that seems to be kind of what keeps you going?
Yeah, definitely. No, well, I suppose there's definitely nights, and even now, even before pre-season, so we're obviously going to be going back to Monaghan in a couple of weeks. And even at the minute, like, I finished up a club about 8 weeks ago and I tore my adductor, so I've had to do a lot of work to get even back to getting back into the Monaghan setup in the next couple of weeks. And
Yeah.
in my head, every time I do a session, or I'm in the gym, or I'm trying to do my rehab, that's what's in your head is, I need to get back to the level. I want to be back at the level that I was at maybe this time last year or in the middle of last year, making sure that I'm in a position to get myself on that team. And obviously there is a lot of pressure. You put yourself under pressure in that, but I think whenever you have that in your head, like, you want it, it makes you want it even more. So definitely
Mm-hmm.
it's something that I would always go back on, is I'd remind myself of why I started, and this is where I want to finish up. So those things run through my head nearly every session.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to ask you about the kind of off season, because I suppose the level that intercounty has gone to, and we've kind of spoken about it already. It's basically professional commitment and professional kind of athletic commitment in terms of the gym and the running. I get the sense that even there is now there will be a defined off season with the new fixtures and between the club, that intercounty players don't really let themselves go anymore during the off season. It's a continuous thing that they do by themselves.
Yeah, like, I don't think you can nearly give yourself the chance to have time off. This was actually the first time ever I had a break, and it was by default, kind of, because I got injured before our club championship semi-final, so that was 2 weeks before that. So I obviously missed out on it. We lost that game, and then up until now I've had about a month, and if I stopped training completely, I don't know where I'd be. I don't know how I could face going back to train in the off season. So
Mm-hmm.
obviously off season is a very physical time. It's a very, very hard time or a very tough time on the body. So if you know that, and it's in the back of your head, and you're coming into that with having done absolutely nothing for a month, you're going to struggle massively. So I highly doubt if there's too many especially at the top level in intercounty football, that let themselves go completely. Obviously, weekends weekends are a problem. Like, I found that this is my first time off in a month, and nearly every weekend there's something on, or there's friends looking to do something, and it's
Mm-hmm.
great to go and do that, but during the week you have to get back, you have to put in whatever amount of hard yards it is. For me, it's rehab. I have to get back to doing rehab almost every second day. So you still always have that goal to get back to that level. So um yeah, I don't think at the intercounty level at the minute there's not too much stopping for pre-season.
Mm-hmm. The intercounty game is so competitive now. Even picking a panel, you know, you've talent coming through. A lot of the major counties is just phenomenal to see. How much is football down to kind of that self belief and not being too focused on, oh look, he's coming good and he's doing well at training, and you kind of start doubting yourself. Is self belief something that maybe you've had to work on at all, or do you think it's really important with, particularly at the intercounty level?
Yeah, I definitely think self-belief is a massive thing. I suppose that was always something that I probably might have struggled with up until recent years. We played a lot of football between minors, under 21s, and seniors, and I was sort of coming into the senior panel when I was still on under 21 panels and stuff like that. And I struggled. I saw a lot of players that were a long way ahead of me, and I was always saying, Jesus, I don't think I'm going to get playing in this team. But that's whenever that, work hard attitude comes in. Like, you have to try and work to get to that level physically first, and then you have to have the self-belief that your skill level will be good enough to get you onto the team. probably like that, like mistakes and stuff like that is something that is part of Gaelic football, and not allowing yourself to allow those mistakes seep in on you completely. Because I would have seen a few very talented footballers over the last couple of years come into our panels, and maybe things don't go well for them, and they throw their hat at it then and don't come back or whatever, or just say, no, I'm not sticking with this. I just don't think that is the attitude. But like that, like it's having the self belief to stay at it and know that if you work hard enough, eventually you'll work your way into the team. Like I don't know how many years I spent sitting on the bench watching players that I probably believed I was better than, but I just maybe wasn't at the same physical standard as them, and that took the hard work to get to that stage. So it's combining the two, I'd say, combining the self-belief and the hard work to get yourself to that level.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned minor and under 21. At the moment, there's kind of that argument to bring it back to under 18 and to under 21. What would your opinion be on the situation at the moment? I know your teammate Conor McManus has kind of spoken out about it, and there's a couple of people online that they really want to get it changed back.
Yeah, well, personally, I suppose obviously the fact that we're not playing anymore doesn't affect us that much, but I would prefer to see it go back to under 18 and 21. Purely, well, I'm talking from a club perspective here, because we in Ballybay we wouldn't have another 20 team, and we just wouldn't have the numbers to field an under 20 team at the minute anyway. And the gap for the 17-year-olds to break into our senior team, it's way too much. Like it's far, like even when I'm thinking back to what I was like at 18 trying to break into our senior team, like it was a massive step up, and that's a year ahead of what these lads are. So I do believe there needs to be a wee bit more football played between the age of 17 and 21 to move into a senior setup. The likes of the minor competition, at least it is when you finish it, you are progressing to an under 21 setup if you have it in your club. And again, that's a good stage for development into a senior team. And just at the minute, I feel that just players are a wee bit young coming into senior setups, and probably interest levels start to die away if they're not getting playing, or like if someone gets hurt from running into someone or whatever it might be. Like I just do feel it is a wee bit too much of a gap.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely a busy life stage as well, kind of moving to college. Can you talk us through a little bit about kind of school, kind of realising what you wanted to do? I know you went to DCU. Just talk through a little bit of that process. I have a lot of younger listeners, maybe around sort of leaving cert age, college age, that kind of maybe sometimes find it hard to navigate that path a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I say this and I get mom and dad give out to me every time I'm on a podcast or something. I talk about how I wasn't very good in school, and the truth of it was I wasn't good in school. I like all I had interest on was playing football when I was back at that age, but I knew based on playing football and that it was a field or that I would like to get into, which was sport and performance. But originally I started off, I wanted to do PE teaching, and I just, with my kind of minor football and stuff, I didn't put in the effort enough to get enough points for PE teaching. So I went a backdoor route, which nearly every college has something that you can get yourself involved in, and I did education and training in DCU. And from when I finished education and training, I was obviously on the hunt for something new or getting possibly into PE teaching again. And Niall Mina was in DCU, still is obviously when I was there, and he would have been my Sigerson manager, and I chatted at length with him about what I wanted to get into, and he could see that there was a lot of interest in performance and sport performance. So he got me into an exercise physiology master's, which I completed for 2 years. And as soon as I finished it, I opened a gym in Ballybay. So like it isn't exactly what I set out to do, but in a roundabout way, it's exactly what suits me. So like I found when I was in college, I did a lot of work in different places. Like I worked in a pub, I worked in a nightclub, I worked for Sean Boylan and Dunboyne Herbs. I tried it all. Like there was so many different things. I actually washed cars for a while too. But I knew I knew based on working for people that working for someone or working even in the line of what it might be, a PE teaching or whatever, it just wasn't going to be for me. I needed to be my own boss. And sport and GEA was something that I was massively interested in, and even the exercise physiology end of things was a massive interest to me as well. So moving out of that into my own space in Ballybay here, I just said I was going to make it work. I was told by copious amount of people that I wouldn't make it work, that there's Ballybay is not big enough, you're not going to be able to do it. But with the help of Barry McBennett, a good friend of mine, we've been able to make breakthrough performance work in Ballybay, and that's the way I moved through my path from school to college and into the work life.
How do you balance then running your own business, particularly maybe during the initial stages, because there's a huge amount of work in that? And I know you mentioned there you'd someone involved with you, but trying to balance that in intercounty football, it must be sometimes very, very difficult.
Yeah, it doesn't help that Barry's on the intercounty team as well. So, no, to be honest, it is very difficult. Probably more difficult than people would think, and especially even management teams and stuff as well. Like I found last year was a very difficult time for us because there was just a lot of chopping and changing with COVID and everything as well. Like I suppose even times of training were being changed an awful lot, which meant that, like obviously with owning a gym, and most people want to come into us from 5 o'clock to 10 o'clock at night. And chances are you're going to be training in Cloughan at maybe 7:30 in the evening, and that just takes away at least 3 hours of your night. So last year I found it very, very difficult. Again, it was just about managing time and trying to accommodate everybody as best we can. Like I suppose we're lucky enough that we had a base of customers and clients that sort of got to know us and knew that this was the way we are, and a lot of them would have stayed by us even though we were changing and messing things about on them. But it is a matter of just trying to get a routine, try to have a wee bit of a plan or structure laid out from our own management team, making sure that there won't be too much of a change, and if there is going to be a change, that there's plenty of notice for us. So we do make it work. Not that it's simple, but we make it work. So we do. It's hard to even to explain it, but we do get help from a couple of other people. We have a couple of friends as well that we can ask to cover classes and cover things for us. So we are lucky enough.
You mentioned there the gym. I think it was last year, maybe during the winter, you set up the online programs, and you got high level intercounty footballers, male and female, to kind of give online programs. What was the kind of thinking behind that, and what was the reaction like to the programs? Because I kind of guess this is the first time this has kind of been done by senior elite intercounty footballers.
Yeah, absolutely. No, well, I suppose it was just an idea born through the COVID lockdown. I was saying to myself that I was getting out, I was doing a lot of training on the pitch myself, just on my own or with Barry, and I was thinking to myself a lot about I wonder what younger players are doing at the moment, or what other players are doing, or that do they have a structure? And I also thought to myself, what would have been like if I knew what Paul Finlay was doing back in the day, or what would have been like if I knew what Jim Conley was doing to train? I'd do absolutely anything to see what kind of things they were doing to improve themselves. And that's where the idea was born. It did take a long time to sort of get set up and running because of COVID. Like I would have liked to have been able to meet up with every player, go through every video, on a one-to-one basis, but it did take a lot longer than expected, and so it's only sort of starting to get up and running properly now. So it's seen now coming into the off season, a lot more sales are coming in on the programs because obviously people have a wee bit more time again.
Hmm.
But no, the lads and girls obviously have been brilliant. Like anything I sort of asked of them, they give me, they help me out. Like that, like it's hard to balance for them as well because they have so much going on in their own lives and their own
Hmm.
training and different things like that. But anything I asked of them, they would do it for me, and they give a lot of tips and a lot of things to help out. And like that, going forward, I'd like to get meeting up with them a wee bit more and trying to get even more programs put in place. Like I know you asked me a couple of times about the skills programs, and
Yeah.
you're dead right. Like they are things that I would absolutely love to get put in place. We started recording for a few of them back in summer, so we have about 3 of them completed. But
Brilliant.
I'd like to get sort of all of our players involved in that, and try to take it from there, because obviously people might know the Monaghan footballer, where they might know the likes of Jeremy O'Connor or Conor McKenna after winning All Ireland. So I
Hmm.
know a lot of people would. Well, personally, when I was younger, I would have looked up to players that were winning All Irelands as opposed to maybe someone that is just breaking into a team.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. Out of interest, you mentioned there the tips. Did you pick up anything from looking at the guys' videos and the other programs? Was there anything you were like, "Geez, I'm going to try this," or "That's really clever"?
Yeah, well, just I suppose speed, like the some of the speed stuff the boys were sending me were a couple of things that I would have looked at and said, yeah, I could work on things like that. Um, Definitely, I suppose a lot of the stuff that we would have chatted with them were like, I suppose they're probably not all in the field, working in the field of
Yeah.
performance, and I would have
Hmm.
helped them out a lot with a couple of things. Like, I mean, I would have given them a lot of things to do and to talk through and stuff like that. So a lot of it would have been our own stuff, but like that, like there was a few things that I would have picked up from them, or even just the way they move. Some of them in some of the videos, you'd see that it's probably different to the way I would move or stuff like that. So yeah,
Yeah.
you'd always pick up wee bits and pieces from the likes of those people, and I think just I suppose not to try and sell our programs to you online now, but definitely I would find that it's a good thing for any young GA player that aspires to be in at the top level. Look at these people, because they're the ones that are performing at the top level.
I'll be sure to link the programs in the description box of the episode. You mentioned Dermot Connolly there, and on the takeover, you kind of named him as your toughest opponent. What made him so difficult to mark, and what do you think made him the elite player that he was? And I'm interested in your answer as you're marking him, because from what I saw, would be very different to maybe what you see on the pitch.
Yeah, well, something that I would have always noticed with Jim Conley was his composure. Composure is probably something that doesn't get thrown around an awful lot, and like in intercounty football, it's such a massive part of the game. Jim Conley just seems like everything's at his ease, and it just looks like everything is easy to him. And
Yeah.
I don't know if he would agree with me, but just I feel like by looking at him, it just looks like pure composure. He's aware of what's around him. He's spatially aware. He knows what's going on at all times. He's also extremely skillful off both sides. He's unbelievable off left and right foot. He's so balanced. Like, I suppose when he's running at full tilt, he can solo off both feet and also withstand tackles while still running at full speed. So I just do think he was the toughest to mark, or toughest player or best player I've ever watched, based on all of those things. Like, it just seems like he is the ball on a string, and no matter what he puts his mind to, like he's going to achieve it, or was going to achieve it back when he was playing. So I
Hmm.
was would have loved him see him play on another few years, but unfortunately, if he had done that, Dublin definitely wouldn't have been stopped, I don't think.
Oh yeah, there are a couple of people listening now who might disagree with you, but yeah, it's interesting what you said about composure. Do you think that's down to his ability, or do you think that's just something that he's? Do you know the way people are saying, "Oh, you're just born with this special talent"? Do you think you can teach what he had, or is it just kind of a once in a generation type of a player?
Yeah, I probably don't think that what he has can be really taught. I suppose a lot of it is natural, and a lot of it is confidence in his own ability, probably. He just oozes confidence, and that might look like cockiness to some people, but he just knows well, based on looking at him, I feel like he knows how comfortable he is or was playing. He knows how good he was. He knew how good he could be, and that it was just a matter of going out and expressing himself. And I suppose that's probably something that I would try to say to anyone coming up, or like that is a good player, or even that isn't a good player, just to go and express yourself and enjoy the game, or try to enjoy it as much as you can, and make it not be a strain on yourself. Like, I would have played a lot of games even in recent years and just got so uptight by wanting to win that I just wasn't performing, or I wasn't composed and confident in my own abilities. All I was thinking of was the outcome. So I do think Diarmuid Connolly just has that natural ability to be composed and be confident in himself. And I think it's something that'd be very, very hard to teach people.
Absolutely. I've moved into coaching recently, and one of the biggest things I kind of realised, and I really overlooked and kind of dismissed as a player, was body language. Is that something that you're conscious of, maybe on the pitch, kind of making sure you've positive body language, or is that something that maybe just comes naturally to you, or doesn't even cross your mind?
No, I do think it is something that you should be aware of. If you're going through a game and all you do is sulk, and like there's players I've watched, and you just know that you'd have them beat if they're sulking or throwing their hands, or shaking their head, or whatever it might be. So yeah, absolutely, I would always say, like, try not to let your opponent know there's something wrong. Because I know if I see someone like that, I'm thinking I have the better of them here. So I do think positive body language is something that most people should be aware of. And if you're not aware of that, you're sulking or you're doing something like that, then you need to become aware of it, because it's not helping your performance.
Over lockdown, everyone was really concerned about their 5K times, the gym, and missing kicking sessions, but you actually set up your own pitch in your house. Can you talk us through a little bit of that?
Yeah, that was a bit of crack as well. But yeah, there was just at the time we didn't have Ballybay football field was closed, and I was saying, what are we meant to do? Like, there's absolutely nothing for us to do unless like it literally brought me back to my childhood, where I wanted to get out and play or do something. And I wouldn't be a big man for sitting in the house or watching TV or playing PlayStation. I did do that over lockdown, but I was still in my head, I wanted to get out and do stuff. So obviously our garden, although it was perfect for when we were younger, it definitely isn't. It wasn't big enough for us now. So myself and Matthew, my brother, took into making a football pitch, which was basically the size of full size pitch inside the 45. So say you're 45 into end line and the full width of the pitch. And we just, for the crack, we lined it out, and I'd never expected it to ever go. Like, I only put up on Instagram. I don't think I've ever had.
I think it was on the news at one stage.
Yeah, I didn't think I've ever had more than maybe a couple of hundred likes on a post, and then next thing it was going to the news. So it definitely wasn't meant for that, but it was just for a bit of crack for our friends and stuff, even to see what we were at. But it actually was brilliant. Like, I found we got it literally every single day. I was up there with a bag of footballs, kicking, and when restrictions started to come back a wee bit, we ended up getting friends over, and we'd play 3v3 matches, we'd play 5v5 matches. Whoever wanted to come, we just ended up playing football matches against each other, and it literally took you back to childhood. Like, it was, although a lot of people would have hated every minute of lockdown at that time, I absolutely loved every minute of it. We were doing stuff that you were doing as a youngster.
Do you still use the pitch, or have you gone back to the
No,
main
the
one?
sheep have taken it over at the minute. No, geez, you wouldn't even put a pair of boots on to go into it now. You'd need a pair of wellies. But no, it is like the goalposts and all are still there, but it'll take a bit of upkeep now to keep it to keep it right, and trying to keep sheep and cattle off it at the minute wouldn't be the most simple thing to do.
Yeah, exactly. Out of interest, with the kicking, what particular kind of kicking practice would you do? Is there any particular structure or challenge that you would set yourself? Maybe just for the younger listeners that want to go out and kind of emulate what you're doing on the pitch.
Yeah, well, there's a couple of things. So, well, in that full week GA program, we have a full kicking session in that, and in it, what we were doing, and it's what I did with a couple of Caroline O'Hanlon came down, and Jane Drury came down as well. You probably see that on our Instagram. And we did a kicking competition with each other, just a bit of crack or whatever. But they were the kind of things that we were doing to practice. So I would have had 5 cones out at different, so probably a 5 meter 5 meters away from each other, right round the D, and just even out towards probably the stanchion, or the outside of the catch net. So that was sort of our arc, and we'd take 2 shots from each of those right round and see what you get out. So it's 10 shots and see what you get out of 10. Then you'd repeat that with doing it on the move. So it'd be 2 shots each side and seeing what you get on that. So it's just trying to, first of all, work on your strike and making sure that you're kicking the ball correctly. And then can you repeat that by doing it on the move? Then you take it into a wee bit more game-like. So you might get one-on-one with your partner. You'd have to beat them and try and pop it over from where that cone is off both feet. And that also is working a wee bit of skill in your defense as well. So you're trying to defend what way the person's going to go and that kind of thing. So that was sort of the way we were working it. Even last week, I was saying to Barry, I was out on the field and I did my full rehab, a bit of running, just trying to get back at it. And because I can't use my right leg, I said, why not? Sure, might as well practice my left leg. And I took 50 shots on my left foot. Again, about 25 of those or more, probably 30 were standing and just like a free kick. Not that I ever think I will get a free kick on my left foot, or it might be a thing if I ever took a mark, at least I'd be confident enough to kick it off my left. But you're probably never going to, I'm not really ever going to do that. It might be once in a blue moon you get to take a free kick with your left, but I would bring into a jog, just getting my strike. So I know based on that free kick, I can strike the ball comfortably from this part of my foot. And then about 20 shots or so were off on a bit of a jog and just getting used to that pattern of movement and kicking at the same time on the left foot. So definitely, like I would say, if anybody has any injuries, you should always be able to work on something. It mightn't be kicking, it might be in the gym or whatever, but you can always work on some part of your game.
That's actually when you were saying there about your leg, it reminded me of a clip I have from Bernard Brogan. He was saying when he did his ACL when he was about 20, he ended up kicking, I think he did his right ACL, and then he ended up getting really, really good on his left foot because he couldn't kick with his right, he would just practice all the time on his left.
Yeah,
and he now thinks that.
I read his book and he talked about that, and I thought it was such an important thing. I think one of the things that I took from his was that he had a bag of balls of his own, and he would come out with that every day. So he knew that he had a bag of balls. So I actually went and bought 8 footballs myself as soon as I saw that. We have about 16 balls of our own in Ballybay at all times, nearly for anybody to go and use. But just having your own balls means that if anybody else was using it, you can get out and you can go practice anywhere. Like if you if you were down the country or something just for a few days, if you have a bag of balls in the back of the car, you could go out and punt about or whatever it might be. You know, it's a great investment.
Final question before I move on to sideline 7. When you do retire eventually, not for a long time, don't worry, I'm not retiring you. What type of player? What type of player do you want to be remembered for?
Geez, that's a good question. I suppose I'd like to be remembered for a good servant to both club and county. Probably something that I've been working towards is trying to become a bit more of a leader for both club and county as well. Like trying to get past that stage of, just being, always just wanting to get into the setup or getting into, I've always been chasing to get to a point where now that I've gotten into the Monaghan setup and stuff, I should probably look at being, like you see Dan Carter talking about being a great All Black. Eventually I'd like to become a great Monaghan player. I'd like to become a great Ballybay player, and if I can be seen as that, I think I would be happy with how my career would have finished. I suppose obviously we all want to win, we all want to lift as much silverware as possible, but like that, if I'm able to retire and say that I've give as much as possible to Monaghan and give as much as possible to Ballybay, I think that'd be a good way to finish my career.
Brilliant, great answer. I'm going to move on to the sideline 7. It's the same 7 questions at the end of every episode. Question 1, what is your favourite quote?
Yeah, so I actually had a lot of these running through my head, but one that sticks out was so I played football with Barry Kerr. I don't know if you know Barry, but Barry was a good friend of mine. We went to DCU, lived in DCU together, and his quote to me used to always be, "If you do as you've always done, you'll get what you've always got." And it was something that always stuck in my head. If I was in a training session and I was starting to let things slip or let standards slip and say to myself, "Oh, I'm getting tired now," I'd say to myself, if you do what you've always done, you'll get what you've always got. So that would always sort of push me to do another wee bit. So I'd like to thank Barry Kerr for that one.
Lovely, that's a brilliant one. Question 2, best sporting event you've been to?
Yeah, that was another difficult one. I've been to a right few different sports and that, but I think always looking back on All Ireland final day, like that is, it's one that I just gives me goosebumps every time I walk into Croke Park on All Ireland final day. I just love the buzz. Even I suppose now going to play against different teams, I obviously played against Tyrone, and it was hard to watch them going to play in the All Ireland final, but like that, like I went to the game because the All Ireland final will always be, such a great occasion. And as much as we are rivals with Tyrone, it was an unreal spectacle, and they put on an unbelievable performance. Like, so I just think it is one of the greatest occasions that you could ever go to. But to play in, this was one that I was thinking about. One of the best sporting occasions I've ever been involved in was the Sigerson Cup weekend. Absolutely unbelievable experience. So it was, we played UCD in the semi-final and then went on to play in the final, and the final went to extra time, and it was just one of the best occasions, one of the best sporting memories I have was playing in that Sigerson Cup weekend. So
very good. Out of interest, could you compare Sigerson to maybe the under 21 or senior intercounty level? Does it really fall in the middle of the two? How big of a jump is it from
yeah,
Sigerson to
I'd
senior?
say I'd say Sigerson is just literally the exact same as intercounty nearly.
Okay.
Um, the only difference is that it's played at a different time of year, and the conditions aren't as good. And I think like if you played Sigerson Cup in the middle of summer, the way the intercounty game has been played, I think it's almost exact same, purely because you have some of the best footballers in Ireland combined on a team to play some of the
Yeah.
best footballers in Ireland on another team. It was just, I honestly thought it was one of the best couple of years of my life or GAA career playing Sigerson football, getting to play with Jeremy O'Connor, Stephen O'Brien, like Alton Harney. These guys are all unbelievable footballers. Getting to play on the same team as them against some of the best footballers in Ireland as well. So definitely I would say that it's the same as inter-county senior and slightly ahead of under 21s. So like under 21s just came a wee bit more natural probably. It was a wee small bit easier than it, and then Sigerson football is just every bit as competitive as
The
senior
senior level, yeah.
inter-county football. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Interesting, yeah. Question 3, biggest setback or challenge so far in your career, and how did you react to it?
Yeah, it was another one I thought about long and hard, but I think this year was probably the biggest setback I've had in my career. This year we lost Ulster final. I had literally put life on hold for Monaghan this year. Like I said there last day, like I changed so many hours of work. I put maybe put thousands of euros behind me to try and commit to Monaghan.
Mm-hmm.
And losing that final was just heartbreak. So it was, and then to try and recover from that, I came away from it saying I don't know how I can come back to play club football. but I got away on a break for a couple of days with my girlfriend, and we chilled out. And I came back from that wanting to go at the club football again. And I said, right, I have to knuckle down here and give this as much as possible. Then I turned around and tore my hamstring. Came back from that 3 weeks later after doing absolutely everything I could to tear my adductor. And again, like that, like it just felt like this year was just the toughest year that I've ever went through, Gaelic football wise. And especially whenever you put so much on the line for it, to lose a final and to get injured twice in a club season where so much is expected of you and for the club, I found that very, very difficult. But taking probably that month to reflect and month to do my rehab, I suppose it's just, I want it all again now. You want to get back and you want to try and prove things wrong, prove that we're good enough to win an Ulster title, please God, and prove that I can, perform for the club again whenever that day comes around again. So it's probably just being mentally strong and just the want and drive to do as much as you can for your team.
Brilliant. Question 4, your biggest achievement on or off the pitch?
So my biggest achievements is probably my minor under 21 Ulster titles, my Sigerson Cup, and then our senior club championship back in 2012. So they were definitely my biggest achievements on the pitch. Off the pitch was opening my own business. It's definitely something I love seeing grow every day. Although sometimes I can be ready to close the doors and say I've had enough, but it's definitely one of the biggest achievements off the pitch. I think that it's progressing well, and even though COVID was thrown into the middle, made life difficult for us, but I do think that we're doing well, and hopefully there'll be bigger and better things to come in the future as well.
Looking back, what advice would you give your 18-year-old self?
Yeah, it was a good one. Looking back, I would always say dream big and go for it. Like, I suppose I probably was always a wee bit reserved trying when I was coming into teams, and not, I was thinking about what other people thought of me and what managers thought and this, that, and the other. But I would say just absolutely go for it. Don't hold back. Take risks on and off the pitch. Like, I took a massive risk opening the gym in 2018. It's paid off. Why not just go for it? Go for everything you can for as long as you can, basically. So that's what I'd say to my 18-year-old self.
Who would be your dream dinner guest and why? And you can open up the table to a few people here.
Yeah, well, I'd love. He's definitely. Well, probably won't see this, but Dan Carter. Absolutely love to have dinner with him, just to see what he's about. Understand, like I was talking about composure there with about Jeremy Connolly, like no better man in the world probably than Dan Carter to see, to tell you about composure, or just even his way of going on, like how chill the person he was, how much effort he put into everything. Like I probably see a lot of similarities in the way he is to the way I am, and I'd just love to chat with him to see what he's all about. And he seems like a pretty cool person as well.
What would you have for dinner? What would be on the menu?
This mightn't go down too well with most, but an Indian would be my choice. An Indian from the Eastern Balti and Monaghan's not hard to, or wouldn't be beating my eyes.
Right. We'll see what Dan thinks of that. Final question before I let you go: if your life was a book, what chapter would this be called?
Yeah, I'd probably go make or break. So,
okay,
big time, like obviously on and off the pitch. Like as I said, this was a very tough time coming out of this season. Was definitely the toughest season I've ever went through. Is it going to make me or is it going to break me? I don't know. Work. COVID has come and gone. COVID's possibly coming back now. Is it going to make us as a gym? Is it going to break us? I have a few new plans with trying to open a new gym, all going well. A couple of other ideas that I have coming to the table as well. So definitely, I would probably call this chapter of my life make or break. So
Brilliant. Yeah, sounds very busy. Look, thank you so much for coming on. I know you're really, really busy, as you just mentioned. But best of luck with the business, with football next year, and thanks again for your time.
thanks very much, Orla. Appreciate it.
A massive thank you to Dessie for joining me on the podcast. I thoroughly enjoyed our chat. Be sure to check out all of his GAA online programs, which will be linked in the description box below. If you did enjoy the episode and you are listening on Apple Podcasts, I'd really appreciate if you could leave a rating and a review, as it does help the show grow. Don't forget to sign up to our newsletter on the website thesidelinelive.com for more. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you in the next one. If you did enjoy the conversation or you did take something away from it, please do let me know over on Instagram or Twitter at The Sideline Live, and I'd really appreciate if you could leave a rating and a review, as it does help the show grow. Thanks as always for listening, and I'll catch you in the next one.